a part into, our identity. And it's funny that you mentioned Tupac. In our first session, when we talk about our self-identity, we play that against the hip-hop community and the music that, that is pushed amongst our young people, because a lot of what our young people have become is based off of what they learn and what they hear. And so when you don't have a father at home, Jay-Z becomes your father. When you don't have a father figure, Lil Wayne becomes your mentor. And so if he's telling you all these different things about how to get fast money, how to get fast women, that's all you know. That's all all you understand. And so all of the, misogyny, all of the, money chasing, all of the, low morality skills are, being developed a lot of times through the music. And this is not just, anything new. I just think it has, escalated over the years, because, I grew up in hip hop, that's, all I knew growing up. At the same time, our parents grew up in, R&B and, understanding Marvin Gaye and the Isley Brothers, but they were sliding things in subtly, when you talk about sexual healing and, between the sheets. Now it just seems to be the same information, now it's just overtly, all the way out there. So,
absolutely.
So now we see our young people, and we're trying to figure out what's wrong with them. It's the same stuff that, that we dealt with before, because, it's say there's nothing new under the sun. It's just at a whole nother level that we're trying to, wrestle it with now.
And the absence of family. And so I think
Definitely.
that when you think about the surrogates, that the music begins, as you talked about, the surrogates, they provide the surrogates, similar to gang involvement, providing surrogates for these young people, providing and structure and an organization for them to operate within. So that becomes their paradigm. And so when you think about the influencing factors on that paradigm, you have to understand that certainly popular culture and music is going to have an impact. We talked about it here. We've talked about music a lot, and particularly the stanky leg. Yeah, it's my moment to mention the stanky leg. But certainly the stanky leg doesn't have as big of impact as some of the other misogynistic lyrics that you hear and some of the other messages that are being sent out.
Yeah, and we even would talk about, in terms of how through the machismo, quote unquote, of hip hop, we kind of also down in terms of how we play our part, because now I can't walk around and cry. Because if I cry, I'm showing my emotions, and to be a man, you don't show emotions, of course. And so now, if I'm crying about anything, then all of a sudden I'm labeled gay or homosexual.
Or weak.
Yeah, exactly. And so we've been put up this, this whole false persona about what it means to be a man. So we try to tackle all these different areas to kind of, address some of these issues. Because, we joke around with our young men while we're in there, because, we try to explain to them this is not school. You're allowed to, express yourself, talk about certain things. Like if you cuss, we're not just going to, automatically put you out the room, because we understand, the background that you come from. And so, we discuss all these things. We talk about the fact that if I come in with a tight shirt on, all of a sudden I'm gonna get called a fag because I don't look like you look. But this is, the look that you have is based off of, what you heard or what somebody else told you. This is what, you're supposed to be, as opposed to trying to figure out your own, self-identity. Yeah.
And I think it's a struggle, because I think when you look at so many things that are in popular culture, that's a challenge. All my friends know, and I tell people I'm emotional, in that when we think about emotions, that we talk about men not expressing emotions, but anger and violence are emotions. And then if you look at the manifestations of suppressing your emotions, heart attacks, strokes, medical issues that people have as it directly relates to the suppression of your emotions. And so I say that we are all emotional, and that I think that it's important in terms of how we express emotions. Back to the challenges around character is that, for me, I look at the profanity as a symptom to what the reality is. And so that often people will accuse somebody or label somebody because of their how they express themselves. Well, you have to give them something different to eat. So they've been eating off of this table, and so now they're coming to the gentleman's club. Now they're eating off of a new table. They have new nutrients. They have new vegetables. They have new substance, things that are substance that are feeding their character. And so I think that, as you suggest, I think it makes sense, Mike, that it's a process. Is that part of us as a church, we have to accept you as is, no warranty. One of the big issues traditionally in the African-American community around church has been you have to dress everything up to get to church. So you have to look good, you dress your Sunday best, you had Sunday clothes, you had clothes you couldn't wear the whole year except Easter. You couldn't even wear them on a normal Sunday. It was your Easter outfit. We have Easter outfits, and so we know that, unfortunately, that we have taken a message, we've taken a process, and we've still messed it up to an extent.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That it's an imperfect process.
And I think even, when you look at, church as a whole and, what the origin was supposed to be versus what we right now have.
Absolutely.
Jesus was a people person. Like he was in the streets talking to individuals. He got accused of, being what he wasn't because he was hanging out with the prostitutes. Yep. He was hanging out with, the liars and the thieves. And so this is the same approach that we try to take in church, because now I probably dressed up more for you than I do, on Sunday morning.
Absolutely.
And so I'm in, Sunday morning, I'm in jeans and, and I'm kicking it with my people, and they understand the environment because I want them all to be able to be acceptable when they come in. So you might have somebody that shows up in a shirt and tie because they're comfortable in that environment.
Absolutely.
But you'll have somebody come in some Air Force Ones and they know they're not going to be looked at differently because of the same thing. So we try to create that same environment for our gentlemen's club, that we're not setting a standard so high that you're not able to attain it. We want to bring you in as you are, then change you while you're there, and develop you to become whoever you're supposed to be. Understanding your purpose, your calling, your destiny. And so, because when you grab those things, it's a lot easier for you to to walk forward.
Absolutely. And so in the future, if you see me hanging out with prostitutes, it's only because I'm doing what Jesus would do. I'm only doing what Jesus would do. I'm just hanging out with prostitutes because Mike said that's what Jesus was doing. I'm doing what Jesus would do. But I think it's important because you have to be able to move people from A to B. And I think that, and really allow them to see it and to understand through your own process, is that I tell people that advice is something that is for you. And that as we develop young people, for me, I set a foundation of if this is what you want to be, because it's all about choices. And so in no program or organization or in any process do we talk about taking away the choice. As Khalil Gibran says in what is my favorite book, The Prophet, he talks about, as a parent to a child, your relationship is not to replace your experiences in your children and to recreate mini me's.
Yeah.
Your responsibility is the bow to the arrow. You're the bow, they're the arrow. So ours is to propel our children past where we are.
Yep.
Some of us simply want to replace our reality and who we are in our children. So we want our children to be who we are, not necessarily be who they are. And so if we're an athlete, we want little athletes. If we're intellects, we want intellects. If we're firemen or policemen, we want firemen and policemen. If we're military, we want military. If we're thugs, bone thugs in harmony, we want bone thugs in harmony.
Yeah, and that's part of our issue also, because some of the parents of our young people are jacked up. And so that becomes some of their reality, because as we discuss certain things, like I said, our sessions are closed sessions, all the information stays there. And so a lot of our young people will share information, and you can kind of see the reason why they are that they are. It's not because, they automatically decided this is the life I want to live. They kind of fell into, into that situation based
natural
on
selection.
Exactly.
Natural selection. And the reality is the parents have their own set of challenges. And so what you want to do is try to create a process where the children begin understanding that they can separate from the attitudes, not judging negatively their parents, but they can separate and become their own person. They can begin to become who they would want to be.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things you mentioned was being able to make the right choices. And that's where, we talk about, choices that, that we make in life, and being able to think about, the repercussions behind those choices ahead of time, as opposed to thinking about them after it's already been done. And we're suffering consequences because now we're sitting in jail because I made a bad choice. Now it's talking about, let's see how I can make a choice before I go out and, do whatever, that might land me in jail. Or saying, okay, I might have a child at home. I don't want to be in prison and have to have my child visit me behind glass walls, for 3 years. And that's what my child sees. It's about trying to develop ourselves so we can make correct choices prior to, our actions being, taken out.
Yeah. One of the young men that I work with, his brother's been in jail for 5 or 6 years for murder. Another one of his friends, he watched him die, get murdered. Another one of his friends was 15 years old, looking at going to prison, being bound over as an adult, going to prison for an armed robbery. And so he's looking at his environment, and he's starting to get it. He's starting to understand that what he wants out of life and that he has to work for it. He has a tutor in school. And so he understands that he's asking for what he needs. He's not trying to take advantage of the resources and the people that are there to help him. He's only asking for what he needs. If he needs you or wants you to come to a basketball game, he calls you and says, Uncle Wendell, I have a basketball game. Will you come to my basketball game? If I can make it, I'm always going to be there. And so he's starting to look at it. And I told him, I said, because of your athletic prowess, people are going to be coming from everywhere to attach to that. But the most important things to me go back to your character, education, and the ability to articulate yourself.
Definitely.